The history starting from the second half of the 20th century is all about, mainly, about how we are quitting dictatorships. The good news is that we can work with that. With the collective understandings, we can work as well. It's not a given statement, it's not a given thing. The past, as it is, can be rethought. The reconsideration of the past can help us change the present. The past is not history. History is what happened, and it's localized somewhere there. It's an object of interest for the academicians, for the academic historians. Memory, it is something that is seen in the prism of today, how we see history today. It may be different from history, let's see, how current modern Russian collective identity is being built on the memory of the victory in the Second World War, in the Great Patriotic War. This is not just the knowledge about war, the knowledge of historical facts. It's how the space around us is being organized. For instance, my child and I will walk somewhere in the yards, and suddenly we see a transformer box. We see 1941, 1945, we see St. George's ribbons, and suddenly I catch myself upon the idea that I'm not being shocked. It is something that you kind of get used to. It's just an urban object, but it's a militarized memory of this past. The memory that is being decorated in a military fashion, it's so much a part of our present. But what's wrong if we have 1941, 1945 on the transformer box and we see St. George's ribbon? It's not just an accidental choice. First of all, we have a lot of it around us. And the collective understanding is not, they don't come out of nowhere. If the state wants to build an image of the past in the way it needs, it just cannot take it out of nowhere. The memory of the Second World War, the Great Patriotic War, is one of the most important, perhaps the most important trauma of the Soviet, post-Soviet society. And perhaps the most important uniting experience. However, you can remember about that in a very different way. We can see that, and you see lots of polls, very curious ones. Starting from 2000s, the Victory Day is no longer seen as a personal, family-like holiday, individual celebration. It is now seen as a governmental, official celebration. Partly it is connected to the loss of the generation for whom this was a personal memory, the war veterans. But in parallel to that, we have a very well thought feeling, very well perceived feeling that this memory is being occupied by the state. And the state starts tuning in certain knobs, starts showing certain paints and colors. For instance, there is an accent on the pride. We are actually doing this muscle playing a lot. They say we can repeat that. This motive is growing, and it's growing starting from 2010, starting from 2014. And after the 24th of February, it was clear where we were heading to. The story of the foreign agents, the protest laws, the poisoning of Navalny, the cementing of the public discourse. This was the preparation for the war. I don't know, perhaps this is the internal logics of the growing authoritarian regime that is void of checks and balances, perhaps. But now, retrospectively looking after the situation of the 24th of February, we can see that this is pretty much this thing. We can repeat it. We have so much of this in the air that it would have been very strange if it hadn't ended up in the war.